Well, good morning and welcome to the Grow Omaha Show. Glad that you have joined us this morning. My name is Jeff Beal, sitting in the KFAB studio high above Underwood Avenue. We are brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center, your choice for any auto body mechanic work, and also D&M Roofing, Omaha's top-notch, top-rated roofing contractor for both residential and commercial roofs. Well, without any further ado, it's time to introduce my co-host, a legendary real estate deal maker in the flesh, Trenton Magid.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do have clothes on, so I don't want to ruin anybody's breakfast.
Well, thank God for it. And we are going to go straight into our news of the week because, as always, we have a busy docket today. A little bit, we're going to bring on Rachel Jacobson from Heritage Omaha. Going to be talking about a lot of cool things with her. But the news of the week is brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, EagleMortgageCompany.com. They know mortgages like nobody knows mortgages. You can find them online at EagleMortgageCompany.com or in person by stopping by the office near 114th and Davenport. That's just south of 114th and Dodge. But they do mortgages, FHA, VA, and of course, conventional loans. Have advisors and mortgage brokers who really work with you, sit down, figure out what you need, listen to you, do their very best to find you the ideal mortgage solution to your problem, which is how are you going to pay for that new house you want to buy. At any rate, EagleMortgageCompany.com. Okay, Trenton, let's get into it. Really cool story today in the Nebraska Examiner by our friend Cindy Gonzalez. Headline, Mutual of Omaha's downtown move expected to spur $1 billion in investment at the new and old campus. So if you're wondering, how does this $1 billion come about? Well, now the projection for the skyscraper building downtown has gone from $443 million up to $600 million. And then the estimate that Mutual has provided would be for about $400 million worth of redevelopment at their current campus after they move to the new tower at 13th and Farnham. So this is great. And of course, the article talks about how it is definitely streetcar dependent, how important that project is in order to make the Mutual Tower become reality. Now, this part was really interesting as I was reading Cindy's article. It also talked a little bit about how the developer Lanahaw Company expects to invest about $400 million into the current, soon-to-be old Mutual of Omaha campus. They talk about a little bit about how Mutual of Omaha developed Midtown Crossing. We've talked about that quite a bit. And there was an interesting quote in which the head of Mutual of Omaha, James Blackledge, talked about their investment in Mutual in Midtown Crossing. And he said, we've been a magnet for a lot of great improvements here in that area around Midtown Crossing. So we're not dissatisfied with what we've done with respect to the community and the area. But he added, financially, has it been a good investment? I'd say no.
Yeah, well, a lot of people going back, and there's been a few different regimes at Mutual of Omaha, and for those that aren't in the know, their first major, besides their campus, their first major development in Omaha was all of Regency. So the residential, the commercial, it was a huge deal, and it's probably the same story over there where they're great philanthropic and community stakeholders, Mutual of Omaha. And it must have been the Scott regime back then, but they developed Regency, and it took a long time. Whether they broke even, I don't know, and how they did, I don't know. But certainly, it's not for everyone. So for them to step up, this is their third major project in Omaha, Midtown Crossing, of course, and now this $600 million tower. And I think that Dan Neary, for as much as he'll be remembered running Mutual of Omaha, and I was talking to my friend John Lund about this last night, he was saying that Dan Neary will be remembered for everything around Midtown Crossing as much as Midtown Crossing, whether it's the residential neighbors that spruced up their houses, whether it's the developers that did amazing apartment, multifamily, and commercial projects around there. So kudos to Mutual of Omaha. you can tell it's not just for their own benefit.
Yeah, Mutual of Omaha may not do a lot of real estate developments, but the ones they do are big and special. When you talk about Regency, Midtown Crossing, and the tower that's coming downtown. But yeah, it just shows you, it just shows you how lucky we are in Omaha that we do have companies that, hey, they're very serious about taking care of their customers. They're very serious about taking care of their owners or shareholders, but they also care about the community, and making it a better place.
It'd be a heck of a lot cheaper for Mutual of Omaha to go out and buy a 100-acre farm and build low-rise buildings and things like that than it would be to develop a couple acres downtown on the library site and everything else. And so, they've made a commitment to Omaha, just like First National Bank did, just like Union Pacific did. And we need those stakeholders to commit to downtown and keep it vibrant. If the core dies, so does the city.
Absolutely. Well, next on the docket, Kintro Group, which is a real estate development company based in Denver. It has purchased the former Schooler headquarters building at 20th and Dodge Street. And this is Kintro Group's first foray into Omaha. The company has publicly said it hopes to do a lot of business here. But at any rate, this Denver developer plans to take the 87,000 square foot building that had been, I believe, 100% occupied by only Schooler and turn it into a multi-tenant office building. Schooler, of course, as we reported, moved several months ago to 136th in California, near 136th and Dodge. And by the way, a lot of people don't realize how big Schooler is. That's a $6 billion company.
Absolutely.
Headquartered right here in Omaha. It's not one of the Fortune 1000 firms here, but it's pretty damn big.
Yeah, and I seem to remember that being a multi-tenant building. They had a gym in there.
Yeah, and then
forever. And then I think there's an architecture firm in there one time.
Was it? Okay. Didn't they had the ballroom in there that was always used for special events or weddings?
Yeah,
I went to a couple weddings there.
My brother got married in that ballroom.
Oh, did he? Yeah. I've been
and the
to a couple
reception was at
weddings
Peony
there.
Park of all places.
I've been to receptions in the Schooler building, so they also have the receptions in there as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But that's
Historic
a
building,
very attractive building, and if you're trying to picture it, it is just south of Central High School. Well, Habitat for Humanity has broken ground on Blue Stem Prairie. This is a 19-acre affordable housing development at 52nd and Sorensen Parkway. It's going to be a $25 million project, and it's on the site of the infamous, notorious former Wintergreen apartments. They were demolished years ago. And plans call for 85 housing units, actually going to be multi-generational. So there'll be some housing units that'll be more geared towards older residents. But, Trenton, many, many, many years ago, our company had that listed for sale. And there were a lot of problems at that old Wintergreen apartment complex.
World Group that Jeff and I ran. And it was a rat-infested, nasty. It's so great. I'm glad that Habitat for Humanity is going to repurpose that site.
Yeah, in fact, I drove by the site this week after Habitat sent out the press release, and they had the tractors and the scrapers going full force. And so, yeah, that project will be a great addition to the area. Well, the city or the mayor has announced a relatively small annexation package this year. Actually would add no sanitary improvement districts. So every year the city evaluates the SIDs, and there are 138 SIDs within Omaha's zoning jurisdiction. Determined this year that none of those SIDs would be revenue positive for the city, so they're not going to take any of them. Last year was a small annexation package as well, but the city is going to take a couple of, three areas that are adjacent to the city that total 177 acres. So they include the Methodist Women's Hospital near 192nd and West Dodge Road, the Omaha Public Power District Service Center near 180th and Old Lincoln Highway, and then the Ravello 192 Townhomes, a multifamily project that's under construction north of Pacific along 192nd. That would be the only one that would add population to the city. So a small package, but I think the city is trying to be pretty careful. Yeah. You don't need to add anything that's going to cost or stretch police and fire anymore. And so it seems like a pretty measured and responsible annexation package.
Yeah, I think it'll pass.
You think it'll work?
Yeah.
So I drove by the future downtown library branch at 1401 Jones Street this week, and let me tell you, work is underway. They are moving on that thing. And of course they have to, right? Because we have to have that moved and tear down the old W. Dale Clark by the end of the year so we can move forward with the Mutual Tower. But it was cool to go by there and just see how hard they're working on that. And then finally, Scooter's Coffee, which is one of the fastest growing restaurant chains in the nation. They will open a second Omaha distribution center. It'll happen this month in a newly constructed building at 13564 Valley Ridge Drive. That's in La Vista, about 4 or 5 miles from their current headquarters at 10500 Sapp Brothers Drive. This new facility will
Lotus development.
Okay, this new facility will have 46,000 square feet for warehouse space and 9,000 square feet for office. So Trenton, get a load of this. Scooters, Omaha-based Scooters, now has nearly 500 stores. They are in 24 states. And they have set a goal quite publicly of hitting 1,000 stores in a relatively short period of time. Now, I noticed a couple times over the last year, a lot of people know I do sales training and I do it for all companies, but I particularly do a lot of real estate and commercial real estate firms. And there have been a couple times in which I've been doing sales training for commercial real estate firms in places like Milwaukee or Oklahoma City or a couple other places. And I'll hear people talking at the break, brokers talking. And I can remember on 2 occasions people saying, "What's this scooters? Everyone's talking about these new scooters that are coming into town."
Really
get a kick out of that.
Unrelated to you being from Omaha.
Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah, no connection whatsoever.
Yeah, they're prolific. They've got a lot of capital behind them now and an aggressive growth strategy. They just took 27,000 square feet in a Lockwood property that used to be West Corp over in Miracle Hills. So that'll be their fancy new offices. They've got that warehouse up along the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
So good for them. We had Don Nichols, the founder of Scooters, on here a couple times.
Yeah, long time ago. But yeah, it's good to see Omaha company growing quite a bit. And they've also been hiring a lot of executive talent from other major restaurant companies and chains. So it seems like they're really beefing up for growth.
And they're not shy about going right across from Starbucks.
No, yeah, they don't.
Or as I like to call it, $6.
$6. You can get it for just $6?
Yeah. Well, I don't get the non-dairy creamer.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is your news of the week, which is brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. They know mortgages. We're going to take our first break of the hour. And when we come back, we're going to bring on Rachel Jacobsen. She is with Heritage Omaha. And there are so many things we want to talk about with Rachel. You don't want to miss any of it. It's going to be good radio. So stay with us. You're listening to Jeff Beals and Trenton Magid on Grow Omaha, brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and D&M Roofing. Back in a moment on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals sitting next to Trenton Magid. We are with NAINP Dodge. Happy to be with you today. This is Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing and Dingman's Collision Center. We hope you don't need Dingman's Collision Center for body work, but sometimes you do. You have the fenders and the benders and the door dingers or whatever happens when you're out and about. If that happens to you, it's an easy decision. The tow truck comes, says, "Where do you want me to take this place?" Say, Dingman's Collision Center. That's what I did in 2016. Someone ran into the back of my car and they said, "Where do you want to take this?" I'm like, well, obviously Dingman's Collision Center. They do such a good job, keep you informed. The service is top notch. You get that car back and it was like it never happened.
They also have mechanical work too. So if you need to change.
Say that again, you were off mic.
There's also, they do mechanical work as well. So if you need an oil change or new tires or your engine's not working or whatever, just call Dingman's at 120th and West Maple Road is their mechanical shop.
Well, we're going to talk about some big, cool projects. And to help us do that, we've invited Rachel Jacobsen. She is president of Heritage Omaha. Rachel, good morning and welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
It is great to have you. And now you're relatively new in this role as head of Heritage.
Right, but I think people need to know before we get into Heritage Omaha and all the amazing things that her organization does is she came back to Omaha after graduating from Central and going to college and doing great things. She came back and you saw a need for something in Omaha.
Yeah, so I think the last time I was on this show, or maybe I've been on, was probably about 2005 when I moved home, and so it was a really long time ago. And I moved home to start Film Streams, which is the nonprofit cinema we run. Rue Sokoloff.
We'll have you on every 17 years, just so you know.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I'll come back 17 years.
But we didn't have something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a really fun. I did it for 15 years. I was, got to be the founding executive director. Worked with an amazing team of people, a wonderful board, and the community really embraced it. You guys included. I think you had me on really early, so thank you. And we were able to. We opened Rue Sokoloff downtown with Slowdown in 2007, and then we opened the Dundee in 2017, fall of 2017. And both cinemas, I gave notice right before the pandemic, and so
smart move.
Oh, it was really sad, and so then but I gave a good 5 months, and then I had to leave during the pandemic. But man, we have such a dedicated board and wonderful team, and I'm still involved with Film Streams. I love that organization so much.
And a lot of great stakeholders in that. And so it's been the 5-year anniversary, I can't believe it, of the Dundee Film Streams, and then 20-year anniversary of downtown Rue Sokoloff Theater.
15.
15
15 Rue Sokoloff.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it was an amazing experience.
Thank you for that. So let's get into what you're doing lately.
Yeah, so I transitioned from from Film Streams to Heritage Omaha, which Heritage Services, which is a nonprofit that was started in the 90s by Bob Doherty and Willis Strauss and Walter Scott, and it was because Jocelyn and Durham needed capital renovations, so they needed significant investment from the philanthropic community, and these guys also knew how to do and facilitate building projects when you think about all the great things that Walter Scott has done for Omaha. And so they started up this organization that existed to, do those kinds of big projects that entities needed. And so, since then, my predecessor, Sue Morris, had been there for 25 years. And and she's pretty amazing. And she really, this is a group of people that really know how to get things done. And, they do these big capital campaigns, big building projects. Some of the recent ones, they did the VA project. That
public-private partnership.
Yeah, that ambulatory center, which is really unbelievable. They did Sienna Francis House. Dan Neary, you guys were just talking about Dan. He was really the leader from the board on that one, and that was an amazing project. They did Omaha Performing Arts. They started up Omaha Performing Arts.
Which was like 95 or more percent private financing, that $105 million project when it was built.
Well, you're talking about the Holland Center.
Yeah, the Holland Center. Yeah, but they did the Holland Center and the Orpheum at the same time.
Okay.
And so it was both projects, and then they started up the organization. They hired Joan. And the thing about this organization that's cool, and the translation from Film Streams into this is it's these capital campaigns and it's these building projects. But the amazing thing about it is that we get to start things up. We kind of do this whole institutional development. We create something sustainable for the community, and then we don't typically run the organizations. We step back and we let them do their thing. And sometimes they're existing organizations that we're doing something for. Like we did the Central High Stadium, for example. But when you think about it, that was a pretty complicated project because it involved Jocelyn and Creighton and Central. So having an autonomous entity like Heritage to be able to facilitate that, I think, was important.
What I think is unique about Heritage Omaha is not only do they do projects and they oversee projects, but you also do feasibility studies and do the background to see if something is warranted.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at, the pro formas. We're looking at how is this thing going to operate long term, and how is it going to support the community forever? I think Walter Scott was quoted in the paper a bunch of times talking about Heritage, saying we don't want to build white elephants. We don't want to, just build a building to build it. We want to make sure that there's really a sustainable entity to run it. So,
how unique is Heritage Omaha to other organizations around the country? When people talk about Omaha, they say that we have a ton of public-private partnerships, which makes us very unique. There's a lot of money. It's not just Berkshire Hathaway, millionaires and billionaires, but Union Pacific, insurance companies, all kinds of philanthropic stakeholders. How unique is the organization on this kind of format?
I asked Sue when I started, I was like, who are your peers? Like, who do you look to, nationally? And she said, there's really no one, that they've been able to find that, that's like Heritage. And so, and I know, we're going to talk about Kiewit Luminarium. We recruited this amazing CEO for that. And she kind of said, she's like, this is a really interesting organism. This is the kind of organization that I've never seen before, because it's kind of this interesting mixture. It's not like, we're not a foundation. We don't have like a huge pile of money in the bank that we're giving away. We raise the money, from different entities, but and then we facilitate the capital projects. But it is kind of a mix of philanthropy and that stewardship and that fundraising side too.
We're talking with Rachel Jacobson, president of Heritage Omaha. Rachel, I'm kind of curious. How does Heritage decide what projects to take on and what to get involved?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, we've got a really terrific board, and we're kind of, continuing to evaluate, how we do things. But I think one of the main things is what wouldn't get done without us, what's something that's really needed for the community and would be really valuable and would have a huge impact, and what wouldn't get done without this group.
So you're a really generous TIF-like organization, but with the expertise and what also makes it unique, starting with Walter Scott, where he understands how to build things, not only from the construction side, but the organizationally and the project management and all that, which really lends some expertise and some cost savings to the projects.
Yeah, and it's not just, definitely. Having these guys who are running these Fortune 500 construction companies and then also, the history of our board and our current board, have done really amazing things in their career. So, that's a benefit of a nonprofit. You have all these people who are committed to the future of Omaha who can
and they've made it. They don't have to impress anybody. They know what they're doing.
Right, exactly.
Okay, we're going to take our middle of the show break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about two projects in particular in which Heritage is involved, the Kiewit Luminarium and the Central Library Project near 72nd and Dodge. We're talking with Rachel Jacobson, head of Heritage Omaha. You are listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing and Dingman's Collision Center on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals and Trenton Magid at your service. Grow Omaha is brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and D&M Roofing. If you have a commercial roof, like you own a commercial building or make decisions about a commercial building, you want to check into D&M Roofing's preventative maintenance program. It has proven to save property owners tons of money over the years and could be very beneficial for you. So check that out. You can find them online at dandmroofing.com. That's dandmroofing.com. It's time for the Noddle Company's Commercial Real Estate Development Spotlight. And today we talk about some progress downtown. Noddle Companies is very involved in the Builders District. And Trenton, last week we talked a great deal about Millwork Commons. Millwork Commons is north and northeast of TD Ameritrade Park. The Builders District is to the west of TD Ameritrade Park. And, the main building was the Kiewit headquarters and the Kiewit University. They're connected by Skywalk. And a lot of other things are going to be coming to that area as well. We mentioned about a month ago that there's going to be about a 5-story timber building that will be constructed starting late this year, immediately south of the Kiewit building. That's on Mike Fahey Drive. And by the way, timber buildings are the rage now. They're
it's kind of reminiscent of these 100-year-old buildings where you see these giant wood columns in the buildings. And there'll be some steel in there, but the most of what you'll see is wood.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is just because we're getting closer to College World Series time, and both those areas, Builders District and Millwork Commons, are just surging forward. And you think about what that area will be like in 5-10 years when people come to the CWS and mill about all those parts of downtown. It's going to be pretty exciting. So if you want to learn more about Noddle Companies, it's really easy to do. Go to their website, noddlecompanies.com. Jay Noddle, who is the head of the company, we have him on the show quite often talking about development. And in addition to Builders District, they're also doing things like River's Edge and Council Bluffs, Monarch Place at 180th and Dodge, Steel Ridge and Papillion Gretna area, and so many other projects, not the least of which Exarban Village. So noddlecompanies.com if you want to learn more. Well, we have Rachel Jacobson with us. She is the president of Heritage Omaha, and we were talking in the last segment about what Heritage does and how they do it. But now, Rachel, I want to talk about two projects that your team is involved in. Huge projects, community-changing projects. The first one is the Kiewit Luminarium. Tell us about that and how it's progressing.
Oh, this one is so exciting. So it's going to be right down on the riverfront, and it's a new science center, and it's in partnership with Exploratorium, which is a science center in San Francisco that has been around since the 60s. And a lot of people attribute the success of Silicon Valley to Exploratorium being there, because it's all about joyful engagement with science learning, and it's just an amazing place. And so they're doing all of the exhibits there, and it's going to be this beautiful building right there on the riverfront. So the riverfront park development, the Lewis and Clark Landing part of that, is going to be all around it. So just to the south, there's going to be this awesome children's park, and then right on the water, there's going to be pickleball courts and like a little urban beach and all this stuff. And then Kiewit Luminarium is going to be this great thing, and it's all about different ways into learning so that you can develop a more inclusive workforce for STEM fields and for STEAM fields, really, including arts. So it's going to be
science,
so
technology,
beautiful.
Engineering, arts, and mathematics.
I'd never heard STEAM before.
yeah. They say STEM and STEAM and all of that.
What I find most unique about it, and isn't the CEO, didn't she come from San Francisco?
Yes.
She ran she ran the Exploratorium.
So here's the amazing thing. She is an incredible person. She had been at Exploratorium for a really long time, and she started their global collaborations project. She saw that the amazing work that they were doing could be modeled in other cities. And so she's doing a science center in the Middle East. She's doing one in Brazil that's going to open in the next couple of years. They were doing stuff all over the world. And I inherited this project when Exploratorium was already on board, and when the lead donors, that all named it for Kiewit, were already on board. And she was our lead person that we were working with on it. And
what's her name?
Her name's Silva Raker. You should have her on. She is phenomenal.
Here's an invitation, Silva.
Yeah, Silva, you should come on the show. Yeah, but she's really already, she moved to Dundee just a couple blocks away, and she's really, really engaged in the community already. She's just out there meeting everyone. And the cool thing about Luminarium is, if you go to the website, it's kiewitluminarium.org, and you'll see, we've got this great board that includes Cheryl Logan, the superintendent of OPS. It includes Lance Perez, who's the head dean of engineering at UNL. There's a bunch of other community. Lance Fritz from UP is on there. Jane Miller from Gallup. Bruce Grucock is kind of one of the leads. It's just a really great group. But then, in addition to that wonderful board, we also put together this wonderful advisory group that's leaders from different nonprofits, and so they are informing the exhibits and the programming right from the beginning, because we want it. Exploratorium doesn't just want to do a franchise of Exploratorium Part 2. They want to build something that's in and of the community and that's of Omaha. So this is really about co-creating this place and making everyone feel, and making sure that everyone's a part of making it great. It's going to be so cool.
Not only is it not only is it unique, but it's going to be interactive and it's going to be ever changing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, so when we open, we're going to have about 100.
We're talking about April of 23, so it's less than a year, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. You can drive down there and you can see the building's really, really far along. They've done a terrific job with that, and yeah, so it'll open with about 120 or so exhibits, and some of those, are exhibits that have been at Exploratorium for decades, and they're proven, and they've kind of tweaked them for accessibility or to make them more beautiful for the space. But some of them are brand new that they've just conceptualized for this project. There's 4 different galleries. One's called the names of the galleries are actually probably going to be changing, but one is kind of focused on physics, on traditional engagement with like light and sound and motion and stuff like that. And so you have like really cool like big umbrellas that are about motion, and it'll be like a really dynamic space that'll be really fun to engage with. And then there's one that's going to be more focused on building and how the built environment interacts with the natural environment, a lot of stuff that you guys talk about on this show. And then there's going to be a gallery that's all about it was called Building Self and Community. So it's kind of all about you think about like the biological self, like the fact that you're made up of cells, and then you have exhibits where you think about like how you respond to color and things like that, and so you kind of start to think about the self. And then they have all these social interaction exhibits, like games that you play with other people there and stuff like that. That'll be really cool, where you think about the social self.
Can't wait.
So
cool.
Rachel, and then just so we have time, I do also want to bring up the Central Library project that everyone is talking about at 72nd and Dodge. Where are we with that proposed or potential project?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, it is a proposed and potential project. Yeah, so it actually, the past few months have been really, really exciting. So we got usually like once Heritage officially launches a project and like goes for it, it's got to be, it's got to be a true go. And like obviously, Omaha Public Library is a beloved institution. It's been here for 150 years. I mean, they've been serving the community in a tremendous way, and so we want to be
without controversy,
with no controversy whatsoever. So we want to be really good partners with them. And Heritage got into library services in 2015 when we launched Do Space. And the point of Do Space was to model, as a prototype, like what a technology library could be, because when you think about it, libraries are all about safe spaces for everyone to be at that are totally free, non-commercial safe spaces. And then they're also about access to all kinds of information. And what has changed more than the information landscape over the past few decades? I mean, so the best libraries and the cities that are investing in libraries are investing in great design. They're investing in places. They're investing in that access to technology and that different styles of access to information. And they're just, yes, books. Absolutely books. There are definitely going to be books at this library, and books and literacy and everything that the library is doing now. But it's also about that deep investment that libraries need in order to get to the next level, because the world's changed so much, and it's going to continue to change.
What might be the timeline for how this could roll out?
Well, so since January, we've been going through. So we have 5 different partner organizations. We've got the City of Omaha, we've got Omaha Public Library, we've got the Omaha Public Library Foundation, we've got Do Space, and we've got Heritage Omaha. Thank you. So all 5 partners, and each, has staff and board that need to be involved. So, and we've got a terrific design team that we put together. It's 2 local firms, HDR and Allie Pointer Miketto, and then it's Margaret Sullivan Studios, which is a national firm that does a lot of library engagement, and she's going around talking about the 21st century library. That's her spiel, and so she's been working in Chicago and New York and all over the country. So it's a really good team, and basically we've been getting everyone together, including city council and the mayor's office, including library board and library staff, including, foundation board and foundation staff, and a lot of sessions with, the due space staff and the library staff together to really figure out what this library should be. And the idea is that we're going to create a building that is a 100-year building, something that is really beautiful, that really can have a huge impact on the library. And we're going to be sharing some stuff on that in the coming weeks. And if this seems like something, we're going to be vetting this, and, obviously, city council would have to make a commitment. And so if the community thinks that this is a great idea, then this project will be a go. So we'll see over the coming months if it is, and if we can keep the ball rolling, we could open by in a few years, 2025 or 2026.
It's going to be very exciting. And Rachel, I wish we had more time to talk more, but we're out. I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for everything you and everyone involved in Heritage Omaha is doing to make this community even better.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Rachel Jacobson, president of Heritage Omaha. Going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be the Turner Construction Lightning Round. Lots of things on the docket. You're listening to Grow Omaha on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to Grow Omaha. It is the Lightning Round, brought to you by Turner Construction. The Lightning Round is where we talk about a lot of things in a little bit of time. And Turner Construction is famous in town for the big Sarpy County data center, just incredibly huge, monstrous project. But the vast majority of Turner's construction projects are less than $5 million. In fact, they had hundreds and hundreds of projects last year that fell in that range. And so don't ever be thinking that Turner is too big for your project or your company, because it's not. They do everything from the very small to the very huge and everything in between. So there's an entire setup in the Omaha office dedicated to smaller tenant improvement and renovation projects and other projects in that up to $5 million range. So we recommend Turner Construction as a top-notch contractor, best you'll find in the business. And we thank Turner Construction for sponsoring the Lightning Round. You ready, Trenton?
I'm ready.
All right. Sur La Table reopened this week at One Pacific Place after a hiatus, and apparently it was welcomed by foodies and culinary enthusiasts alike.
So you don't see that very often, but in that shopping center, in One Pacific Place, also, if you remember that L&N Seafood came back to the same space, but
long time ago.
Was it what was the other one? Mozzarella's or
something like that, maybe.
Yeah, but went back. So it's interesting that they came back. I don't know how much work they did.
And then it was Pacific Grill or Pacific something like that for a while. Then it was Wheatfields or Andres Tortillery or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's been some changing there. Koji is now open at Countryside Village.
We went.
Oh, what did you think?
It was good. We're big fans of Yoshitomo and Benson.
Yeah,
and
same ownership.
Yep. David Utterbagger, David Yoshitomo. Yeah, it was very good.
When did you go?
We went Thursday night.
Okay, so just recently. Well, speaking of restaurants, we can't say for sure and specifically and give a lot of details, but we have a new feature coming to the Grow Omaha newsletter and the Grow Omaha website that is going to have something to do with really good restaurants. So stay tuned within the next couple of weeks. New feature on the Grow Omaha newsletter and Grow Omaha website that restaurant people are absolutely going to go crazy for. We're excited about it. Can't wait to divulge what it is here within the next week or two. But so Koji is in Countryside Village. Speaking of Countryside Village, interior build-out is underway on a new ice cream place in Countryside to be called Countryside Cones. And on the north side of the shopping center, build-out is underway for Moots Pizza. The music is playing, which means we are done. I'm Jeff Beals.
And I'm Trenton Maggot.
You've been listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing and Dingman's Collision Center and Turner Construction. We'll chat with you next week at 9 o'clock right here on News Radio 1110 KFAB.
If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.